Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit or Zappy here, back again, finally, and I have to apologise to everyone. It's been so long. I think it's about a month or so since my last upload, but honestly, you have no idea how much of a stressful month that I've had trying to get everything back to working order. I've had my computer die on me and everything. I had to troubleshoot it to find out what the problem was, like hard drive failure and everything like that. I've had to replace the parts and everything this past month. On top of that, I had to buy a shit ton of gear for a festival that I'm going to in the next couple of weeks. And everything was just like piling up. I was worried sick. I couldn't like fulfill obligations that I do have for people like over on my Patreon and everything. I couldn't get videos up. So I honestly, I apologize from the bottom of my heart, but it's such a relief to be back that I can actually start doing this again, because honestly, for a second there, I didn't know what I was going to do. My head was going a million miles a second, and you know, I was freaking out for a second. So I apologize, but we are back. So I'm going to be doing obviously My Hero. I've got a lot of episodes to catch up on that. You know, so I will be doing that over these you know, catching up as much as I can in like this next week or so. I'll also be doing a movie reaction. Now, I don't have a specific movie in mind at the moment, so if you do have any recommendations for movie reactions and everything, get them down in the not the description, get them down in the comments below. See, it's been that long, like I'm just, you know what I mean, I've been out of it. It's just like it doesn't come as naturally as it once did. So yeah, get those recommendations down in the comments below, and I'll run through them and I'll take them on board and get those reacted to. I'm going to be doing as many videos as I can in these next couple of weeks. Like as I say, I've got a festival in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be over the course of a weekend, but you know, I go on the Thursday and then come back on the Monday. So Monday I'm probably going to be dead. Tuesday we'll see how I feel after that. It's going to be around the end of August, you know, start of September anyway. So, you know, we've got a couple of weeks before then, so, you know, we'll be fine. But anyway, yes. So I think I've pretty much covered all of that. The obviously the last episode, what obviously I normally do. So we finished off the first half of season 5, which was dedicated around sort of like matchups between Class 1A and Class 1B. Class 1A came out the victor in the end. Last episode in particular was Deku's team with Uraraka, Ashido, and Mineta, and they came out against the likes of Monoma and what is his name? Shinso, that's right. And yeah, so they won against him. And also we had that whole thing with Deku obviously unlocking the kind of the power of One for All and everything, like to a degree that has never been done before, which is being able to use the quirks of previous holders. But in this case, it's only been one that's been unlocked at the minute, and that is Black Whip, which is really cool. So obviously going forward, you know, unlocking these different quirks that the previous holders have had, and seeing, you know, what he can do with each of them and how he can, you know, possibly combine them, is going to be sick. So I believe in this next episode, like I wouldn't be surprised if we go and have a chat with All Might about it and get his opinion on it and everything like that, and see what the crack is with that. So yeah, I think I've pretty much gone through everything. Like I said, get your movie reactions, everything down in the comments below, and I will hopefully get one movie reacted to before I head to that festival. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. So yeah, as always, the reaction will be here on YouTube, but if for whatever reason it gets taken down for copyright in the future, I will re-upload this as a discussion-only video, and the reaction will be in the description below. Okay, so yeah, there's that. And also, the link to the full-length will be down in the description below as well, so if you do want to watch my full-length reaction to this episode, then the option is there down in the description for you. But yes, nothing else to really talk about. So without further ado, we're going to get episode 12 of My Hero Academia Season 5, see what we get. So without further ado, let's go.
Use the binding cloth just like Mr. Aizawa does. Honestly, in
it's
the
like
first match, I thought your team did a great job of putting your quirk front and center. Your judgment and moves were on par with ours. Watching you hold your own with our classes was so inspiring.
Shinso will join the hero course in your second year. Just make sure you don't let him outshine you.
In the second year, okay. So he has to finish off his
Which
first year.
class will he join, eh?
He activated Shota's quirk remotely. Which means He had to have touched me. Monoma copied One for All in the middle of our battle.
If I had known that Midoriya's quirk was a blank, then who knows?
A blank?
I have a task for you. Come visit Eri tomorrow.
Interesting. Is he going to try his, like, see if he can copy Eri's quirk? The new power and all for one. Okay, more all for one.
What's wrong? Use it!
There he is.
What, are you scared or something? Wait! I'm trying, but it won't activate!
He wants him to use the Black Whip.
I don't sense Black Whip anymore. I was surprised to see you joining us today.
I
Great.
asked young Bakugo to come because he knows the truth behind your power.
I like it.
A predecessor with a shaved head? The person who had the quirk before my master was a young man with black hair. I don't think she
Oh,
knew
really?
about the other quirks living in One for All either.
Think harder. You must have noticed something that triggered the new power.
I don't think so. But the man I talked to said now's the time, so...
Could it have something to do with All for One?
Okay.
His passed on ability originally came from him, right? You're basically the same as him.
That's something I've thought but didn't want to say.
But why would all for one... He wouldn't purposely trigger that, would he?
This cannot keep happening.
The only thing to do is kick the crap out of you and force the energy to go wild again!
Do not try to murder your classmate.
This ability is one I won't be able to use for a while. Yeah.
Right.
I judged that it wasn't a power I could use at the moment. If
like-
it's anything like imagining the egg in the microwave,
Like
then I may be able
subconsciously.
to envision a lock opening to get Black Whip to activate
Yeah.
it.
Damn it! This is boring! Baby, stop whining like you're a weakling!
I can't. You completely showed me up with your manliness in that match. There's a limit to how durable I can be. But you're the opposite! The more you're hit, the stronger you get! You're right! We're
Interesting.
both manly tattoo.
What the fuck is going on there?
I didn't know you had two quirks this whole time as well.
I think this dark energy is derived from my quirk, which would mean it's just another part of my original power. Today was the first time something like that happened, so I was surprised myself.
I apologize for doubting you.
How can you be sharp and dull at the same time?
You were amazing, Todoroki. I didn't know you'd gotten so good at using your flames.
I have to start aiming even higher.
Endeavor.
I can't believe it. To think that you'd be the one approaching
Flash
me
fire.
about training.
His flash fire fist, isn't it?
Shinso sure reminds me of the emo kid you used to be. You found yourself a miniature Aizawa, huh? Or is this really about Shirakumo?
If you have something to say, make it brief.
Yeah?
It's the bad guy. Oh
Foolish child saying.
The bad guy.
Oh, I told her that UA has its bad parts and that you represented one of its downsides.
I'm sorry, I'm a man who follows the path of peace and justice.
Maybe copy the quirk and try and get his quirk back, right? Possibly. Oh wow. He actually grew a horn!
This one is a blank. Unfortunately, I'm
Damn
not going
it.
to be able to help you out, it seems.
Of course.
What does blank mean?
It must mean her power works like yours. Both of your quirks function as stockpilers. I copied
Okay.
the core nature of the quirk itself. I don't copy the stored up fuel that would make it function.
That makes sense.
Interesting, okay.
I draw these blanks every once in a while. The same logic goes for when I copied your quirk but couldn't release any of its energy.
She's not able to activate her quirk right now, but one day it may return in full. If she doesn't know how to use it. That's why I thought it'd be easier if Monoma borrowed her power, trained with it, and taught her how to use it.
That would have been
safely.
cool, man. That's a shame.
no. I'm really sorry. You're having a lot of trouble because of me.
You can't forget. You saved my life with your rewind quirk.
Precisely.
Powers aren't good or bad. That's why when you use your power for good, it's wonderful.
If that's true,
That's
could
how
it
he
have
used
something to do with All for One? This passed on ability originally came from him, right?
Very cool. It was nice seeing Monoma just like normal for a change, you know?
Todoroki and Bakugo passed today? Every member of Class A will have provisional licenses.
Okay. Are we gonna see the end of that?
After today, I don't expect to see you chum buckets anytime soon.
Chum buckets. Plankton.
You ready, Plankton Brains?
He actually called him Plankton! Surely that is a SpongeBob reference. It has to be.
Still psyched I got my license before they did. It's the only thing I've ever beaten those two at.
Someone feeling inadequate? Manufacturer Detnerat has ventured into the hero support industry.
Fucking hell. It's guy's got like a tidal wave Quirk.
Wait for the pros?
They might be a while.
I'll handle this then.
Be cautious. First, you need to check
The surroundings, I know.
Fuck!
You can't fight these villains, but we can.
I don't know about this.
Sweet! They've got them!
You two have only been licensed for half an hour.
Half an hour, they're already in it. The ice there. I wonder if he could literally touch the water and freeze that.
That a problem? Jeez. How many minutes have to pass before we can be heroes?
Cool.
You pretending to be grown-up pros?
You all need to get away from the scene.
Oh, wow, it's All Might.
Hand over the things you've stolen.
A couple of ice cubes aren't gonna stop me! We spent an entire month prepping to make sure we nabbed a ton of end-of-the-year loot.
Didn't account for those students,
Too
though,
bad
did
for
he?
you, we happened to cross your path.
I can manipulate carbonation. Makes me feel all tingly inside.
Combination. Is that why his mask has
More
got these like...
determined to get away scot-free, that is. Later!
You seem more determined to get thrashed!
That's it! I'm through playing around!
Damn.
Whoa! These items are strong!
Wow, okay, so he hasn't even practiced with those.
Young lady, get back here.
Ah! Nice, All Might! Very nice.
Try not to get yourself killed!
All Might still being a hero.
This is so awesome!
I was hoping we could avoid any violence.
It's like a water laser. You seen those things that are like so pressurized that they can like literally cut through anything?
Flash freeze, heat wave!
Carbonated water goes flat when heated.
You pulled that crap at the sports fest.
That's what. Ah, right.
Well, I
Okay.
held back this time.
Are you two kids okay?
Who's this?
You're that famous delinquent from UA High.
You want to rethink that word?
We were able to capture all of them before anyone in the gang escaped.
And the stuff they nabbed?
I stashed it before it got incinerated.
Well done, Bakugo.
Incredible. You could just leave the rest of this mess to slide and go. That's me.
He's like the Crimson Chin.
His gauntlets just blew up.
That's what he gets for using inferior goods from the black market.
The two of you were amazing tonight.
Thank you.
You got your licenses!
All right. Celebrating for it.
Capsule Cave!
That thing is massive!
I was gonna say I thought they just came home late, but
We're proud of you.
Thank you.
Bakugo, you did it!
Congrats!
What, you think you're better than me because you got your license first? That's not what I meant! You better shut your face if you want to live!
Kaminari seems to think so. Okay, episode 12. It's really, really good to be back. You know, I just get that sort of giddy feeling anytime I really even watch this show. But yeah, it's just to get that feeling back of like, you know, recalling again and watching like this amazing show. It's so good to be back. So that's it. All of Class 1A now officially has their provisional hero licenses. Obviously, with it being, you know, Bakugo and Todoroki, those are the ones in Class 1A that previously didn't have it because they failed in the test earlier on in the show. But they officially have them now, and I love the fact that within half an hour they were already like out there. Like they're so just like, you know what I mean? They're anxious to just get out there. You know, it's just like it puts that into perspective that, like, you know, they've obviously been like trying like above and beyond in their supplementary classes to get to this point. You know, like you know, they obviously hated the idea that they had to go and do those classes, but you can tell just by how, you know, how anxious they were just to get out there and actually do it, because it only took them half an hour. So yeah, really, really cool to see that. And obviously, of course, that, you know, them two together, that they would take out these you know, these new villains or whatever. But yeah, that one dude who was like, I guess, like the main villain of that crew or whatever, that had like the what was it, like, you know, like carbonation is what his things. I mean, I noticed that on his mask it has those, like, what you'd see, like, obviously like at the top of a can, you know, a drinking can that you would see. So obviously that has to do with that, but using support items from the black market that obviously aren't up to standard. I don't know if that just goes for everything on the black market, because I'm guessing that, you know, like the League of Villains, for example, like that crew, they're obviously going to be involved with, you know, the black market and everything like that, and I assume that whenever we get to see them again in some sort of fashion of any kind of fight that happens with, you know, Class 1A or any hero that we know, that they will probably make use of support items at some point, because I think that's something that we haven't actually really seen before, other than what's her name, the murderous schoolgirl, because she used that in season 3 when she was extracting blood from Uraraka, right? But I think other than that, I don't think like anyone else was using support items out of that crew. So yeah, I'm sure that like that'll come into play again, like the black market and stuff, because it's not going to be just like a one-off kind of, you know, like comment about the whole thing. But it was really cool, and I think the idea of like the water like shooting out at, you know, with such insane speed and pressure, that I likened it to a water laser thing. So I don't know if anyone's seen it before, but you get these like really pressurized, like sort of like water shooters essentially, that are so powerful that they literally can just like cut through like anything. That it's like that powerful, which is insane. You know, and for what would be considered like a lower league villain, he can do some damage with that Quirk, because that's like, you know, in terms of, you know, the elements of like our real world, the strongest one is water, really. Like, you know, that can cause so much damage, and the amount of like that he was essentially, he had like a tidal wave that was, you know, bigger than some buildings that he was riding through there. Like that can cause serious damage, and for a lower league like a villain, I'm surprised that, you know, like obviously Bakugo and Todoroki are, you know, incredible students and everything like that, and I'll have their back till you know the end of time. But it's like you could almost imagine somebody with that kind of quirk, that, you know, has access to the black market and everything like that, that he would have some kind of connection like higher up, like in like possibly in the League of Villains, like that kind of, you know, caliber of quirk. But you know, but yeah, so within, you know, half an hour to an hour, they'd already taken out, you know, and done an amazing job. All Might obviously there to see it all through, which is nice. It's also nice to see All Might still being a hero, even though he doesn't have, you know, he doesn't have one for all anymore. Obviously, like putting himself in harm's way, not thinking about himself, but Bakugo there to you know, to save you know, All Might as well is nice, and that's it's nice to see. So it's interesting, like this episode, the title for this episode is The New Power and All for One. Now, the new power, yes. All for One was brought up a couple times, but I assumed with his name being in there that we would actually go see him and see what, like, you know, he has to say, because there's not much that he can do other than just sit there and, you know, monologue. But I thought that there must be, you know, something that would crop up with him, but it was kind of just like one-off things in terms of, you know, there has to be a connection between All for One and the fact that, you know, this power is now coming out of One for All, because the connection obviously is there. But that's the interesting thing, that I'm still, like, in my head, I don't know what the, like, for example, I don't understand why he would purposefully do it, so I don't think it's a thing that's on purpose, other than this is just something that had to occur eventually. Like, you know, they were talking about earlier on in the season, or the show, about what was it, like the shit, I can't remember the word, like the point, right? They were talking about the point, the singularity, right? That over the course of time, when quirks become like essentially like stronger and stronger, it becomes harder to kind of like maintain and everything, that it was about to reach this point eventually, that this is something that couldn't be controlled anyway. So to me, it's not a case of All for One wanting to do this purposefully, but you know, but who knows? I mean, what's not to say that this was not all in his plan for him to get broken out of? I don't know. Like, you know, if the fact of, you know, that Deku, he can't control these yet, that, you know, it could play into like All For One's hands. I don't know, but it's interesting because when Black Whip came out, there was that whole thing with, or I guess it was more to do with like Deku in that sort of space where he was getting the memories and everything, that All For One was also getting these like these visions. So anytime like it's dealing with a One For All, it's also affecting like All For One and vice versa. So, you know, like All For One knows that something's going on anyway, regardless. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's anything like that is tied to One For All that like All For One can actually affect it somehow. I don't know. But it's something we'll have to wait and see. And then the other the other time where they actually brought up All For One is when they were talking to Eri, and obviously, you know, Eri's feeling, you know, essentially like sorry for herself because she feels like everything she does is wrong. Deku obviously gives her that you know, that motivational speech to turn around, and the idea that, you know, there isn't such thing as an inherently evil quirk, it's how you use it. And whilst obviously that was a talk to Eri to get her to, you know, to understand and actually smile, the same obviously goes for Deku. So in a way he's kind of talking that to himself as well, that, you know, even though One For All is a product of All For One's quirk that comes from an evil guy, you know, it's being used to do good. So it's, you know, the knife analogy obviously is a perfect one, that obviously a knife can be used to murder somebody, but it, you know, it's a utensil at the end of the day that's used to do other stuff. That's not its primary thing, is to kill people. So of course it's how you use it. So Shinso, it was said that Shinso will join the hero course in the second year, so obviously he has to see out his first year in the general studies, which is actually coming up to the end, I believe, of their first year, because I think in Japan they end their school period like relatively soon from now. I say here, like in the preview, it's like the next episode's going to be about like Christmas, so obviously it's around Christmas time, and I think it's not that long before they end their first year. I don't think it's the same as like over here in the West, like, you know, in England we you know, our school and college and everything like that comes to an end of the year in like July, but I think it's earlier for Japan. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right. So it is coming up to that point, and they didn't even give us like any inclination of what class he's going to be joining, 1A or 1B. I'm trying to think like what I would prefer. I remember like earlier in the season I was saying that I think it would make more sense for it to be 1B, but that was when I was assuming that there would be a whole thing where one would get transferred out and one transferred in, and my whole argument was, well, you can't do it with class 1A surely, because like they're like this tight-knit group, this whole class that I refer to as almost a character in of itself. So to get rid of one of those, I felt like would have been a bit of a, I don't know, like this show, I don't know if they would have gone down that alley. However, I do remember talking about the idea that would actually be a cool little subplot of like one of them actually being kicked out of, you know, class 1A for Shinso to take the place of, and then you've got a whole thing of whoever got kicked out could have this whole arc of themselves to get back in, you know. But now that that's not even a thing, where, you know, I thought that would have been I remember in season 2 when Shinso was, you know, he first you know, came up into the show, and he basically says that, you know, it's a case of, you know, you take the place of someone, and I was thinking like that's a cool like little like thing that they can focus on. And so a little like a part of me does feel like that's a bit disappointing in a way. Like I would have preferred that, because then, like I said, you have this subplot of something else interesting that's going on that is completely different from everything else happening in the show. You know, so that is a bit disappointing. But I mean, in terms of who he will join, I don't know. I mean, he has this whole thing with, you know, Deku, but I feel like there should be only so many rivals in the same class. So I'd probably say that he'll go into class 1B, but that's to be, you know, that's to be decided later on. I loved the whole thing with Monoma and Eri. That was really cool to get him involved, and to think, like, you know, I thought the idea was to copy the quirk and use that to rewind Mirio. But now that I have time to, like, literally think about it, and I'm not totally focused and concentrating on the show, yeah, that'll probably be a bad idea. Because, I mean, that's the whole thing with, you know, this copy quirk, like, I guess, like, the downside of that is that you don't know the extent of the quirk or what it's capable of or what its downfalls are. I mean, there's this idea that if he copies quirks, is it a whole thing of, like, he gets the idea of how to use it in his head? Like, does he get these, like, sort of instincts or, like, memories from the person when he has the quirk or not? But, like, the thing is that if it's something that he can't fully control, then that would have been dangerous. So it makes sense that, yeah, that wouldn't have been the case. But the idea that he could have, like, copied the quirk and kind of, like, you know, got used to it in a way to train Eri, I thought that, like, the fact that they even brought up that could have been the case if it wasn't a blank is, like, damn, like, that's, like, another disappointment where I'm just like, shit, like, that could have been a cool alley, like, down there, and have, you know, someone who is, like, as timid as Eri, and, you know, having Monoma in that situation, like I said during the reaction, that, like, it's actually nice to see Monoma, like, in this kind of, like, you know, just, like, kind of being, like, normal and not, you know, over the top, and all of that. It was nice to see that, and I thought that if there was a way that, like, there could have been this whole training thing that Monoma was, and you know, was teaching Eri, like, how to control it and everything, like, that would have been, like, a cool way, like, a cool little sort of side arc for Monoma, I feel like, you know. But now that I've, like, seen Monoma in that, like, sort of way, like, damn, like, I kind of want more of that. Like, that's really cool. Like, well, that's the thing. Like, I've always said that, like, the thing about shows, like, characters are the things I focus on the most. Like, I like characters. I love character development, you know. And seeing different sides of characters is just, like, really cool to witness, especially when, like, you're so far into a show that, like, you know, they've had this one sort of defining personality trait for so long that, like, when you finally, like, hit something that is so different, it's like, it's jarring because it like, kind of comes out of nowhere, but it's like, damn, like, that's cool. Like, I like to see that, you know. You like to get these different facets of, you know, the characters' personalities and everything, to get more of a grasp of what kind of person that they are, you know. And while Monoma is so, like, you know, he has this, you know, big kind of, like, you know, pride factor, but he's so, like, he's such a douche that, you know, it clearly, like, it affects him in such a way. But I like seeing calm Monoma, I do, and it's a shame that we won't get that, like, whole thing of him training Eri, because I thought that would have been cool. But I mean, that's the thing with this show, is, like, the little things, like, the little details that you know, the idea that they even put that in there, I mean, they didn't really have to, but, like, the idea that they're trying things out is good, because it keeps Eri obviously in the story, and we're keeping her sort of close. You know, and I imagine we will, over the course of, you know, this show, like, we'll be keep going back to Eri to, you know, see the kind of, like, what stage she's at and everything like that. I like seeing Bakugo trying to force Black Whip out, because, you know, that's the thing, like, with Bakugo is obviously, you know, this this rivalry thing that he has with Deku, that even though, you know, it's like, he wants everyone to fight him at, like, at obviously the full power and everything like that, and if not, then it's just a waste, and it's like, you know, it's kind of like, Bakugo even sees it as unfair, you know. He wants to fight everyone at their, like, their peak powers and everything, and learning about the Black Whip and everything like that, you know, Bakugo is actually trying to force it out of him so that he can learn to control it, because at the end of the day, how you know, like there's only one way to learn how to control someone, and that's through experience. So, you know, Bakugo obviously trying to force it out is you know, it's really, really good on him. You know, but Deku was talking about this idea that, like, you know, he can't even sense it, that it's almost like subconsciously kind of like locked it away, because he knows that in terms of, you know, the amount of power that he can, you know, withstand for an amount of time with One for All, that he's not the level to actually use that yet in a safe way. I think, if I remember correctly, he referred to it as like going back to 8%, that like with 20%, like all the way he can't use it, but if you know, went back to like, sort of like 8%, it's kind of, you know, it's not enough to get full control over the thing. So yeah. And obviously Bakugo being the one to actually figure out that it's obviously something's triggering it. It's not something that's just come out of nowhere. I mean, it feels like it is, but it's something that had to have triggered it, an event or anything that is, you know, at a point, finally reached the singularity point, all for one, everything like that. Bakugo is the one that, you know, figured out, like, he's the one that literally said it in plain sight to All Might and Deku. Obviously, you know, being the smart one, you know. And I did like later on when, you know, he was listening to Todoroki talk to Deku, and he's like how can he be so smart but so like you know, like almost like oblivious at the same time? And it's true, because I remember like in season 2 when there was that time where Todoroki was like, he said something along the lines of like, you know, All Might is in your corner or something, and you know, for a second you thought that Todoroki was on to the whole thing with you know, the One for All power and everything, and then he was just like, is you know, are you like the secret love child or something, you know? And it is that kind of thing that, like, you know, Todoroki's smart for certain things, but not really, you know, he's not truly on the ball for other things. So, you know, but I mean, you know, it's not totally Todoroki's fault. I mean, he has other things on his mind anyway. So things like, you know, with Endeavor talking to him now, wanting to learn about Flash Fire Fist. Well, he did just say Flash Fire, but I assume it's, you know, relatively the same. I feel like that is the thing that he used in his match, Todoroki, when obviously he, you know, when obviously the you know, the animation went insane and it looked like, you know, Todoroki was about to like land an actual finishing blow until he got knocked out. But yeah, I think that's why he was using like that Flash Fire Fist thing, you know. But a lot of it comes down to like kind of more like instinct, and he's barely even thinking about what kind of move it actually is. That like when Todoroki used that kind of Heat Wave move, I can't remember what he said before, but it was something Heat Wave that is the same move that he used against Deku in season 2. But I assume that back then he didn't even, like, obviously he didn't have a name for it or anything, or he didn't even really know what was going to happen. He was just at that point where he was just like, right, I'm going to take you, I'm going to, you know, show you what I'm capable of, and he used both of his powers at the same time to basically, you know, cause that, you know, rapid heat and rapid cooldown, like all at the same time, to sort of get that concentration of power between the two. You know, but yeah, that's cool. Yeah, interestingly enough, All Might had said that the bald guy is not the predecessor of Shimura, which is what I thought it was. Because I remember, it's interesting, like, I guess when you just look at characters, you kind of just have in your mind, like, oh, you're automatically like, I get the trope of that character based on how they look. Now, I know, like, in the real world, that's kind of, you know, judging people based on appearance. You know, a lot of people, everyone really does, you know, to a degree. Differing degrees for some people. But when you're looking at it, like, in a cartoon, or an animation, anime, anything, that, you know, the way that they generally are drawn, they're sort of more expressive with how, you know, you can tell almost like a trope from a character, you know, 90% of the time. So, you know, looking at the lineup of all of the vestiges and everything, and you know, I remember Shimura talking about her predecessor. I'm sure I remember. I just can't remember exactly when it was, or, you know, because her sort of like little scenes have been scattered throughout the show, so I can't remember exactly when it was. But I remember him saying, I remember her saying something like her predecessor was like, I'm sure like she related like almost like the same as All Might. But what All Might said is that Shimura's predecessor was young with black hair. Now, if I recall, I remember that one. That's like the little kid that, like, you know, he's obviously the short one that kind of has these. He has more eyes like akin to possibly Aizawa, or like, you know, like Todoroki, like almost like that kind of like more, I don't know, like cool, calm, like collected kind of look to him, right? And if I am remembering it right, and Shimura talked about like All Might being similar to her predecessor, that's crazy then to me, because then I've just completely misjudged the predecessor. Because like I said, I did think it was that the bald guy who had black whip, but it isn't. So, damn, that's thrown me for a loop. So yeah, that's interesting. It will be cool to see these other predecessors, like especially that one now that we know that is her predecessor. So yeah. So Aizawa, you know, goes in to get these, like, sort of, you know, to, I guess, have a word with, you know, the other teachers, the committee, if you want to call them that. You know, I'm guessing what he was talking about was getting Shinso into the hero course, and you know, the headmaster was going to get all the papers finalized, everything like that. And then he went out, and President Mike showed up, obviously, to talk to him, and talked about, you know, because, well, is he similar to you? And then he said something like Shirakumo, and talking about the old days. Aizawa almost seeming like he didn't want to talk about it. So there's obviously somebody else there that was possibly like a part of, like, almost like a trio, I guess, maybe. Like, maybe like something similar, like the big three. Like, you just have those three, don't you? I mean, you have Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki. And then obviously you have the big three. Like, it seems like kind of common threes, you know, a lot of the time. And I'm wondering if like that was the same thing with Aizawa, President Mike, and whoever this Shirakumo is, and what connection that actually has with Shinso. That the reason why Aizawa wants to work with Shinso for. Like, I don't know if whoever this Shirakumo is had similar, like, sort of issues in regards to, you know, their quirk was evil or anything like that, you know. Or like that they thought that their quirk would be used for bad, or just like that people had a bad image of them or anything like that, and therefore, I mean, something occurred that obviously Aizawa seems like he doesn't want to talk about, so something possibly bad has gone down. Like, maybe whoever the Shirakumo is, like, maybe got into a situation where they didn't, you know, they couldn't use their powers to, you know, full capability or anything like that, so Aizawa's making sure that, you know, that he's ready as he can be. I don't know. But it's interesting, and I'm sure we will get more information that as the episodes go on. Back to Monoma, yeah, so obviously we learned that, you know, hey, Eri's was a blank as well, but that we got a bit more in depth of what is blanks and what isn't. So stockpile quirks are the ones that are blanks. When he copies, he gets the, you know, like the what do you refer to it as, like the core of the power, like that's something that's there. If it's just a stockpile, it requires extra sort of extra things that he can't get a hold of with his copy quirk. So obviously Fat Gum obviously was the obvious one that, like, you know, it's a case of like he stores this energy here that he can use you know, in tandem with his quirk, whereas, you know, copying it, that's something that obviously you don't get. It's just interesting, like, the idea that when he copied Eri's quirk, the one thing that did come through was the horn. which is interesting. I mean, I guess the whole thing with Eri's quirk is that it does actually come from the horn. Like, when she uses her quirk, like, that is a thing that is, you know, it's concentrated in the horn. So I guess that does make sense. But the idea that he could get a hold of that but not the powers is obviously in line with that sort of, you know, the core of the quirk is something that is obviously concentrated in the horn. So that bit comes through. But, you know, the concentration of power, everything that is, you know, after that isn't there. And that's why I obviously drew a blank. So yeah, that's interesting. What else? Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much gone through everything, right? I think I have. Yeah, don't think I've missed anything. But yeah, I mean, yeah, really cool episode to get, you know, more into, you know, the eyes of what, like, actual Monoma's quirk is actually, you know, capable of and what it isn't. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of him, like, in a more calm, normal sense. I don't know how much of that is actually going to be, because it feels like a situation where, like, it is, like, more serious, like what it was there. Then you can see him being cool, calm, and collected. But when he appears again, I know for a fact he's going to be, you know, teasing one ear and everything like that. So, you know, it's just going to be a case of we're just going to have to wait until he's back in a serious situation again, I guess, for that to be the case. But we'll wait and see. So yeah, I mean, with everyone having their provisional licenses now, that's great. It means that there is no more sort of waiting. I can't believe that it took us to episode 100, which is something I didn't actually talk about yet. This is episode 100. That's insane. It's a century. It's taken us to episode 100 for now. It is legal for them to go out and fight crime. 100 episodes. I guess it just doesn't, like, you know, there's this whole thing of, like, well, they've kind of been forced into situations where they've had to, like, you know, fight to some degree, where, like, it doesn't seem that big a deal that now they have their licenses. But now it's good in the way that politics can't get in the way of anything anymore. You know, I've already had my fucking, you know, fun with all of that shit where, you know, arguing with people on why and why not it's good and everything like that, and vigilantes and everything and that kind of thing. I've always had the you know, perspective on it that you know, if it's been done for the right reasons and put in a situation where, you know, if you don't do anything, people can die, then that's fine to me. You know, it's like that's where, you know, being a vigilante actually is the right thing to do. So yeah, it's cool, and I can't wait for the second half of the season. You know, with everything this first half of the season kind of like out the way, and everyone sort of like at a point where they can't go out and fight, you know, villains and everything, you know, without getting shit for it. It feels like we're at a significant point in the show, in the story. So I can't wait for everything coming up in the second half of the season. I don't know what really we're going to be seeing, like in terms of, you know, I know Hawks is out and he's like sort of like, you know, his spy mission to infiltrate the League of Villains and everything like that. I don't know if that's kind of like what we're going to be getting in this second half of the season. You know, but I assume that, like, because of, you know, what tends to happen with seasons is that, you know, the big stuff, like the important stuff going on with the villains and everything like that tends to sort of accumulate to, like, in the second half of the season. I mean, I guess the one thing you can actually say about that is season 4 didn't do that, but like previously, like, that tends to be like, you know, there's big things going on. You know, we've had the first half where it was just about sort of enclosed in, you know, with the students and them against each other. So I feel like we're due the villain side a lot in the second half. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that is all I've got to throw. You know, thank you everyone for watching. Apologise if I did actually miss anything. In the description below, I've linked to certain things. One of them is the Discord, so you can get yourself over there if you wish. And I also have a Patreon page as well, so if you do want to support me over on Patreon, that'd be very much appreciated. There is a bunch of different tiers and rewards there, like early access. Gives you, you know, early access to shows by a week. There's the full length, which gives you access to full length reactions to all of the shows that I do. So if you do want to watch any of these in full length, like this episode, for example, then that's there for you and there is the exclusive tier, which gives you access to full-length movie reactions and everything like that. And like I said earlier on in the video, that I'm going to be reacting to another movie. So get your recommendations down in the comments below, and we'll see what I'll be reacting to next. But yeah, that's all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.